Next on the news, the FDNY in mourning after news of a young firefighter collapsing in his firehouse after battling a blaze in Queens. Then,
being here in Brooklyn, my eyes are open.
Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan is here to talk about what he's learning from his parishioners as synod meetings continue all across the diocese. Plus, a special Black History Month report exploring the issue of abortion and race, how women of color are uniquely affected. And a city struggling with addiction. New York opens the first supervised drug injection sites in the nation. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. It's a sad day for the FDNY after one of their own passed away. 33-year-old firefighter Jesse Gerhard died Wednesday night after suffering a medical episode at his firehouse. The day before, he battled a fire in Far Rockaway. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more.
Oh, that white smoke is still thick.
This was the last fire Jesse Gerhard got to fight, and now New York City will be getting ready for a funeral for another first responder. On Thursday, Mayor Eric Adams and Acting Fire Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh announced the death of the 33-year-old firefighter, a 7-year veteran of the department.
The entire city mourns for the loss of this firefighter, a young man that dreamed to be a firefighter all his life.
Late Wednesday night, Gerhard suffered a medical episode at his firehouse, Ladder Company 134 in Far Rockaway. He was transported to St. John's Episcopal Hospital, where he was pronounced dead.
He is exactly what we would want an FDNY member to be. He had dreamed his whole life as becoming a member of the FDNY, and he had achieved that dream, responding every day to help New Yorkers in need.
And that's exactly what Gerhard was doing the day before his death, responding to a 2-alarm fire in Far Rockaway. Gerhard's job described as the most strenuous position in the FDNY. He was tasked with forcing entry to the home and searching for victims. Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello, who was sworn in as an FDNY chaplain earlier this week, said Gerhard's family is in shock and will be relying on their faith for comfort.
Now we have to give him that send-off that he deserves, for putting his life on the line.
Diocese of Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan putting a call out on social media for prayers for Gerhard, his family, and the FDNY. During his time with the department, Gerhard was honored for his bravery.
From the moment he got it, could not have loved anything more than doing that job.
Gerhard was the 1,156th member of the FDNY to die in the line of duty. Wake and funeral arrangements have not yet been announced. He's survived by his parents, brother, and sister-in-law. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
We are learning more about the life and bravery of firefighter Jesse Gerhard as details continue to emerge. His parents are Catholic parishioners of the Church of St. Mary in East Islip. As we just heard, he dreamed of being a firefighter his entire life and was appointed to the FDNY as an EMT in July of 2014. Gerhard entered the Fire Academy in December of 2017 and graduated in April of 2018. His first station was Engine Company 264 in Far Rockaway. He was then transferred to his current station, Ladder Company 134, in March of 2020. Firefighter Gerhard's death marks a dark first day on the job for First Deputy Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh. She took over for Daniel Nigro after he officially retired on Wednesday. Kavanaugh will serve until Mayor Eric Adams names a replacement, though it is believed she's on a short list of candidates. Kavanaugh would be the first woman to hold the position. It's not known when Mayor Adams will make his announcement. Then, a place that actually helps you take illegal drugs.
When somebody first comes through the door, we're going to ask them what they're using and how they're using it.
Addiction experts say they save lives and help people get clean. Right now, an inside look at injection sites in New York City. They were open to try and combat an increase in overdose deaths. These so-called safe injection sites provide a place where addicts are allowed to use their own illegal drugs under the supervision of trained staff. For Monica Diaz, every day is a struggle. She's homeless and much of what she owns she carries with her. But she says it is the weight of her addiction that at times is too much to bear. This is the place Diaz credits with helping her cope. It's a supervised drug consumption site, the first of 2 to open in the country.
They're open 5 days a week. I'm here every day.
Both locations are in New York City. This one's in East Harlem, the other in Washington Heights. Here, users take illegal drugs with clean supplies without risk of arrest. To be clear, they are not given illegal drugs here. It's where they use drugs already in their possession.
When somebody first comes through the door, we're going to ask them what they're using and how they're using it.
In the East Harlem location, it's all done under the supervision of these medical professionals.
This is all of our injection and sniffing equipment, as well as our smoking equipment up here, so people can take anything that they need.
Are you guys okay?
We great.
In Washington Heights, the same protective protocols are in place, but here, many of the trained staff are also recovering addicts, like Clara Cardell.
See, you need a water.
Sam Rivera is the executive director of the program. He says they have averted more than 130 overdoses since the sites opened in November. So far, Rivera says no one has died under the staff's watch.
This wouldn't be happening if you don't show up the way you guys show up, man. The goal is we want to keep people alive. And if we want people to recover and get a better life, if they're dead, they can't.
You okay, sweetie?
We're checking on people constantly. If we start to see eyelid drooping or any kind of slouching, we're going right over and we're going to agitate them with a sternum grind. If we're seeing more serious overdoses or the overdoses is starting to progress, we're going to be going over to the crash cart. Our crash cart has oral airways, ambu bags, 2 different kinds of Narcan.
But many may wonder, what are these facilities doing to get people off drugs?
We're giving them every opportunity possible to stop. Once someone says they're interested, we get them picked up right into detox.
These centers are actually illegal because of federal law, but the Department of Justice is evaluating whether exceptions can be made so that sites like these could be opened nationwide. When they opened in New York, the city's former mayor, Bill de Blasio, gave his blessing, sending them a letter of support. But was the support warranted? According to the CDC, drug overdose deaths have doubled over the past 6 years, soaring to 104,000 in 2021 from 52,000 in 2015. While the continued rise of fentanyl is partly to blame, health experts say the COVID pandemic has also made things worse. They estimate if the pandemic ended overnight, it would take at least a year for the number of overdoses to stabilize. The CDC is inching closer to saying no more masks. Director Rochelle Walensky saying in a White House briefing Wednesday that the government is looking into changing their guidance in the coming weeks. Officials also say the nation is moving in a direction where COVID is no longer a, quote, constant crisis. This comes as more states are starting to lift their mandates. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul has lifted the mandate for indoor businesses, but not for schools. Diocese of Brooklyn schools are in favor of scrapping masks. When the state's Department of Education was appealing the mandate, the superintendent of Catholic schools in the diocese said they hoped the rule would go so they could make the coverings optional. Monsignor David Casado, the vicar for Catholic schools in the diocese, says the schools are safe enough to get rid of masks.
We've run almost 2 full years and we've done it well. So I think we're good. I think we're very good. We're at a very good point. And I think it's time to lift the mandate.
Governor Hochul says she wants to wait until after winter break before she decides on lifting the mandate. That decision is expected to come on March 7th. The crisis in Ukraine is ramping up after what appeared to be a brief reprieve. President Biden now saying a Russian invasion of Ukraine is imminent as Secretary of State Antony Blinken addresses the UN Security Council about the escalating situation. Chris Wynn has the latest.
More tension along the Ukraine-Russia border as America tries to use diplomacy as a solution to the crisis. President Joe Biden warning that an invasion of Ukraine could happen within the next several days.
Every indication we have is they're prepared to go into Ukraine, attack Ukraine.
Despite the Kremlin's claim it pulled some forces back, the U.S. says Russia has added 7,000 troops along the Ukrainian border in recent days. These estimates would place the total number north of 150,000, according to officials.
The basic principles that sustain peace and security, principles that were enshrined in the wake of 2 world wars and a Cold War, are under threat.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken appeared before the United Nations Thursday morning, claiming Russia plans to manufacture a justification to invade Ukraine.
I am here today not to start a war, but to prevent one.
Meanwhile, Russia has expelled the second most senior diplomat at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow in what the Biden administration views as an escalatory move. The step comes as the Kremlin sent a written response to U.S. security proposals, saying the increasing U.S. and NATO military activity close to Russian borders is alarming, according to Russian state media.
It will be Mr. Putin who will bear the responsibility for the suffering and the immense sacrifice that ensues.
Chris Wynn, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. Bishop Robert Brennan will be here to talk about the ongoing synod gatherings in Brooklyn and Queens and how they're helping him get to know his flock. Then,
I don't believe a way of solving poverty is to kill the poor.
an in-depth look at abortion and race and the misconceptions that sometimes plague communities of color. Coming up next.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Find out exactly what every Catholic wants from their church. That's the mission Pope Francis has given every diocese in the world. Bishop Robert Brennan arrived in Brooklyn in the thick of the prep period for the so-called Synod on Synodality. And in the past couple of months, he's been on the forefront of that process, traveling around the diocese, listening to both Catholics who attend Mass and those who don't. He joins us now with an update. Hi, Bishop.
Hi, Christine. Nice to talk with you today.
And you as well. So tell me, we're about halfway through these listening sessions. The last one is scheduled for March 9th. You attend multiple meetings a week. Walk us through one of those nights. Typically, it starts around the dinner table, right? Like all good conversations do?
There you go. That's right. So I begin actually meeting with the priest for about an hour, and that goes into dinner. And they just tell me about the parishes, describe the parishes, a little of the history, and they raise some of the different issues that parishes face. And then we ask the delegates, each parish sent 2 delegates. They all had the synod process already, the listening session at their parish. And so now 2 delegates from each parish will come and report what they heard from the people in these local synod sessions. So the people who were there as delegates had first to listen and now to share.
Okay, so the tablet and Currents News have had continuing coverage on the sessions, and we found there are a couple of issues on the minds of everyone. Let's take a look at the 3 biggest takeaways, a sort of wish list for parishioners. They want more outreach and faith formation to the youth, more outreach to families, and they want the church to focus more on diverse populations, particularly the Hispanic community. So what do we do with this information now? Isn't it a bit overwhelming?
Not really. It's the ordinary operation of the church that we try to do these things. Concern for the youth comes across all the time. That's a great thing. People are concerned, especially about the fact that we've lost or are losing a great number of young people. In terms of reaching out for diverse populations, it's really broader than the Hispanic population. I already have some experience with the Hispanic community. But being here in Brooklyn, my eyes are open. I'm learning so many others, whether it be the Haitian community, the different Asian communities, the different African communities. And one of the things that comes up a lot is communication. Communication between the communities, communication between the diocese and the parish, transparency, understanding. So one of the big concerns really is, how do we pull it all together and be one united family in Jesus Christ?
Absolutely. And it seems everyone wants the priests to be more pastoral. But how can they find the time to do this between caring for the upkeep of the church, its finances, looking over some Catholic academies, daily Mass, marriages, baptisms, funerals? It seems there aren't enough hours in the day.
Well, that's always going to be a challenge for us, isn't it? And thank God we have dedicated priests who they see many of these opportunities as pastoral opportunities, and they really do prioritize the pastoral community. So we have to look at how we're structured as a church and what does it mean to be Catholic today?
Right, and now the diocese wants to reach even more people than those voluntarily coming to the listening sessions. So they're now launching a digital synod. We recently caught up with Sister Mary Ann Lepiccolo, who's helping Father Joseph Gibino, the vicar for evangelization and catechesis, lead that charge. Let's listen to what she had to say.
We want to hear from people who don't feel welcome. And really, those are the voices that are going to change us.
Bishop, why is it so important to reach out to these people who seemingly don't want to be part of the church?
Well, a very simple answer is because Pope Francis asked us to. But on a more serious note, it's because it's the work of Jesus Christ. Isn't that what Jesus himself did? He went out to find people where they were and to bring them in. Pope Francis says this a lot. Pope John Paul used to say, open wide the doors to Christ, let in the breath of the Holy Spirit. Now Francis says, open wide the doors and go on and move out there, bring the message of the gospel out to where people are living.
It's great to hear that. Let's talk about the next steps quickly. All this feedback will be compiled into a comprehensive report that the Diocese Synod team will have ready for you in May. From there, it's submitted to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops in June. So things are about to start moving very fast. What do you think the Pope's response will be to the reports from the United States compared to other places?
That's going to be hard to tell because he's going to be responding on behalf of the whole world. And the challenges in the world are much broader. And so it'll be interesting to see where it all goes. Pope Francis seems to put the emphasis on the process more than the product. And so what he really wants is that this continues to be a dialogue, a conversation, that we're walking together, listening to one another, and bringing Jesus Christ to one another.
That's great, because it sounds like such a great process. Bishop Robert Brennan of the Brooklyn Diocese, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak with everyone through Net TV.
And it's always a pleasure to have the bishop with us. And for more information on how you could take part in that digital synod, register online at dioceseofbrooklyn.org/synod survey. It launches on February 27th, just in time for Lent. And remember, these results will be sent to the Vatican. It's a chance for Pope Francis to hear your voice. And you can see more of my interview with Bishop Brennan on our website, currentsny.tv. The debate over what should be done both legally and morally to protect the life of the unborn will become even more heated in the coming months as the Supreme Court hears cases that could change the course of abortion law. And while the church's stance on abortion is clear, abortion is never acceptable, studies show that for some Catholics, it's complicated, especially when it comes to communities of color where the numbers may not always tell the whole story. It's a matter of life and death. It's no surprise that Catholics are passionate about protecting the rights of the unborn, but misinformation around the issue can sometimes cloud the progress being made in converting more hearts.
I think there's a misconception that Black people are some abortion-loving, seeking people, and we're not.
Gloria Purvis is a pro-life Catholic consultant for the USCCB's Committee on Religious Liberty and the host of her own podcast. She believes the way we think about abortion in minority communities needs to change.
We have people saying that abortion for women of color is really their way to access greater economic stability. And it's often, I think, pushed on communities of color as if this is a solution to all that ails us. But I reject that because I don't believe a way of solving poverty is to kill the poor.
Even though abortions are trending down across the country from 857,000 in 2000 to 630,000 in 2019, low-income women and women of color have higher rates than affluent and white women, according to the National Institutes of Health. But Purvis says that even those numbers could be inaccurate because women with more financial means seek abortions privately, where the actual totals may never be reported. The Church's teaching on abortion is definitive. Killing an unborn child under any circumstances is not an option. And yet, many Catholics struggle with the topic, leading to misrepresentations that go beyond communities of color.
Many Americans feel a lot more conflicted about abortion than the kinds of labels that are immediately available, labels like pro-choice and pro-life. Instead, we had a lot of Americans who said, well, I feel this way in some circumstances and this way in others.
Dr. Tricia Bruce, a sociologist associated with the University of Notre Dame Center for Religion and Society, studies the impact of abortion when it relates to Catholics.
It's a hugely diverse population. So you have all these metrics of difference that make Catholics actually look kind of like a microcosm of the United States as a whole. And so for that reason, you see also within Catholics pretty big differences in terms of how they view abortion.
Like most Americans, Catholics are divided by party, with those who identify as Republican opposed 63% of the time, while Democratic-leaning Catholics are in favor by 77%. Studies also found that church attendance matters.
Catholics who attend Mass more often are more likely to hold a position that's more opposed to abortion than Catholics who attend less often.
Most Catholics agree that abortion is morally wrong, just as Americans as a whole are concerned about many issues related to abortion.
When we asked them in depth their thoughts about abortion, they brought up not just abortion, but so many other issues: inequality and access to support for pregnant women, or support for families, or support in the workplace, such that people can afford to provide a good life for themselves or for children that they may have.
Yes, abortion, we know as Catholics, is a grave evil according to our understanding, but it does not mean that the people who perhaps felt forced or coerced or desperate into having an abortion are themselves evil people. They're just people that were in crisis and need our help, love, and understanding.
Gloria Purvis, who's based in Washington, went on to say that if Roe v. Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court later this year, it will be more important than ever for pro-life movements at the state level to offer more robust assistance and outreach to women in communities of color. Still to come on Currents News, the awe-inspiring and occasionally frightening kitchen skills of parish priests.
You can do it. Oh, well, I flipped it.
Showing off their best recipes in a cooking competition, priests in Pennsylvania take to the kitchen to serve their community. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. We all know that man does not live on bread alone. So a group of Pennsylvania priests are giving us a behind-the-scenes look at what happens when they hang up their vestments and slip on their aprons.
Get your fries here, or you may fry hereafter.
Welcome to Cooks with Collars. It's a virtual cooking competition featuring priests from the Diocese of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and some of their best recipes. Viewers can vote for their favorite video by making a donation online, and already the competition has raised nearly $130,000. You can check out all of the talented chefs online. Just head over to cookswithcollars.com, and if you'd like to vote for your favorite, you better hurry. The deadline is Monday, February 28th. The winners will be announced on March 1st, right in time for Fat Tuesday. Gonna have to check that out. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. I hope to see you again next time.